So this video is going to show a classic example of why I think that it is virtually impossible to have a meaningful, constructive conversation or a dialogue in any way, shape, or form with Darth Dawkins. This one is going to show you, I think it's going to nail it right down. So I have two clips here. The first one, I'm going to show you where Darth is speaking about Genesis, part of the Genesis account. So listen carefully as to what he suggests.
Creature works, they're constantly having children.
Okay, so in the Bible, does the Bible teach that he opens and closes the womb?
I think it does teach that, yeah.
Okay, could God have closed the womb of the human population on Earth for several decades prior to the flood?
Well, using the construct of the Bible,
within the biblical worldview. Okay, so then there were not children necessarily there. There could have been, but not necessarily.
Sure, but it would seem to me there wouldn't have been any reason to have a flood if you just shut down the wombs and there's no children.
No, what was the reason for the flood? What was the reason stipulated for the flood in the Bible?
Some kind of get rid of a lot of evil people and start over.
Yeah, the pervasiveness and the extent of evil was of such magnitude that God decided that in order to fulfill his general purposes in redemptive history, that wiping out that extreme evil was conducive to his redemptive plan of history. So why is that? Yes.
So after the flood, no more evil. Cool.
No, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible doesn't say that the purpose of the flood was so that there would be no evil. It was that I could say that the purpose of the flood was to give all of the adults who were continually doing evil unrelentingly an early departure so as not to have an influence upon future generations. Would you disagree with that characterization within the biblical narrative?
No, I think that was the characterization.
Okay. So what we have here in genocide, what we have is a genocide would either be an indiscriminate killing of a large particular group of people, or that a large group of people that are discriminated by in terms of nationality.
Okay, so if you heard that, Darth very liberally, let me put it that way, use that word, very liberally suggested the idea that the wombs could have been closed for several generations leading up to the flood. Now remember, he used the word could. In fact, he used it a couple times. So he is suggesting or implying something that he think or that he thought could be the case. Okay, now let's invert this. Let's switch this around. Listen to Darth as he speaks with someone else, and that person also suggests what could be. Watch how Darth handles this.
Is that over the course of your life, because of the recurrent evolutionary dogma you have been unable to differentiate between the sense datum and the extrapolation, and you think that the extrapolation is sense datum.
Each sediment has to be analyzed on its own terms. You can't just like make a rational judgment of all sediments.
Okay.
Because you can have
Okay.
a
I want to ask you a question.
Depositing sediment.
Don't
yearly.
give me an if or could be. Don't give me an if or could be. Okay, not interested in that. Now, do you believe in God?
So there it is. It's beautiful. So this is what I would consider a classic example of why it is impossible to have a constructive, meaningful exchange with this individual. Okay? Now, one more thing. This is just FYI. Darth, no. Well, let me change this. Yes. Let me say yes. The wombs could have been closed for several generations leading up to the flood. That could be the case. If you decide to ignore the entire chapter of Genesis 5. If you go to Genesis chapter 5, starting from the beginning of the chapter all the way through, it gives an account starting from Adam and going all the way through to Noah. And it shows multiple generations. And in each case, for example, it will say Seth lived 105 years. He became the father of such and such. But in every case, you'll see, I believe, 6 or 7 of them, it says that the children gave birth to other children, other sons and daughters. So in other words, there were multiple generations from Adam through all the way to Noah, leading up to the flood, where there were multiple couples, both male and female, having children. So this is just FYI. It shows 2 things. It shows why Darth is impossible to rationally converse with. And number 2, he is a horrendously lousy Bible student. Okay, so that was it. Please feel free to leave comments. Thank you.
Listen to me carefully. The reason why I have to be so assertive is because I have this teenage mentality. Listen carefully.